I think, Renee, the biggest thing, even if you didn't watch this match, I think Jim's post-game comments on the sideline there was very telling of the match in general and just the union and the situation, how we feel in 2024. Jim
Mhm.
made the comment about Flamenco. They're out there and it's a roster that probably close to $200 million. And we're putting a roster out there around 50,000 or $50 million. I'm sorry. You can see the difference. You can clearly tell the difference. And it's something that, we've all been banging on Jay Sugarman's door. Like, can we just spend a little bit more money? But I think that comment was just very telling of the match and just how we feel in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, the game, beautiful weather, beautiful turnout and fans. Everybody was all into it. The post-game comments from Jim hit on a lot of different things for me that stood out. As you talk about the money on the pitch, as he made that comment that they had probably about $200 million on the field. My thought is, I don't think, Jim, that we want to hear you saying that. I mean, listen, okay, we know Daniel Gazdag and Ua not there.
Yeah.
Miko Ua not there. We know Leon Flock, Ty Baribo, Julian Carranza. There's a lot of the main names for the Union offensively still unavailable to play, whether physically not there or just physically unable to play. We get that. But as we've also talked a lot about, us as well as many people that have been covering or following the Union, is you need to spend money. That next tier of players you're bringing in this season, your young talent that's growing, you need to add more money. So to say they have about $200 million on the pitch actually says more about the Union than Flamengo, in my opinion. Because why don't you have something more, maybe not $200 million.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a more
guys.
expensive roster on the pitch? It's not our fault.
Yeah.
That's on you guys, actually. You had the opportunity to do that. You had the opportunity to try to spend more money, even with your more expensive players. Again, Ua, Gazdag, Carranza. A lot of money that's spent on each of them, in the Union's eyes, at least. Okay, understandably so. That's not a lot that's on the pitch. But you still had, from Andre Blake and Jack Elliott, and you still had Kai Wagner. You still had money guys out there. So it's not our fault that the roster's built cheaply. So that comment, I was like, Jim, you could have left that part out, because I was like, that's not a positive thing, actually. Because not to mention, as we also know, and I'm gonna just start with the money piece, the rest of the MLS has a lot of money on their rosters. That's why Inter Miami is plastered all over all the preseason coverage. You're gonna get a live blog of the Union game, and we're getting a play-by-play video of everything that has to do with Inter Miami. Everything. Yep. So even the coverage changes because they have the flashier names. Everybody's more excited about Inter Miami. I've seen every update from them and FC Dallas leading into their matchup. I haven't seen a single tweet about the Union from the MLS today. And listen, I was on the Philly show earlier. I was eating lunch. I'm not going to say I was glued to the MLS Twitter page, but in my brief, quick scrolling, I saw nothing about the Union. Right. Partly because you don't have money on the pitch. Other teams do. So to say Flamengo had $200 million in the field, and again, he's just throwing out a number, but it is about that. It says less about them and more about the Union, because you're going to be playing teams, Inter Miami, LAFC, whoever else, that's going to have a lot of money on the pitch. It's not an excuse if you're not going to go on and spend money.
To the point about Jim's comments, and I agree, like, it's a little bit, it's kind of weird, like, bringing that up.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. It's a game. Why are you talking about how much? If anything, I would rather him have said, to your point, they still played the majority. They had the majority of their better players out, and he did touch on that too. He did. Like, I was listening to what he was talking about with Sage Hurley, and I was reading the different comments. He did hit on their talent and how it's going to help the Union. But I just felt like it was unnecessary to talk about the money, because, again, what other team do you know is doing that? Who else is sitting in their post-game of anything, preseason, regular game, saying, well, they had a lot of money on the field, a lot of big, financially, big financial names on the field, and we didn't. That's not an excuse.
Yeah, I mean,
this isn't private high school versus a public school.
Like, just analyzing the situation, yes. Like, Jim bringing that up, maybe a weird spot there. The way I kind of look at it, so obviously I kind of resonate with those comments, because I do feel like that, and I think we all kind of do to a certain extent, because the fact of the matter is, my point of view going to 2023 was, okay, if we're going to play Union ball, that's fine. But if we're not winning the MLS Cup by the end of this year, Union ball, it has to be tweaked a little bit. You need to now start spending money, because this style of spending a certain amount that's not what the rest of the league is doing making profit off of sales as well. Just
Mhm.
Moneyball, the whole concept of Moneyball. Obviously, we know that works in other sports, but for right now, what you have done is you created an elite squad. You've created a team that consistently is competing. Yes, but you're so close.
Right.
And common sense would tell you, well, if you just throw in a little bit more money, you can get there. So
Mhm.
Jim has mentioned this before. This isn't the first time Jim has brought this
Yeah.
up. He's talked about, I think the big one is against Club America in 21 in the
Mhm.
CONCACAF Champions League
Good point.
semifinal. We all saw what Club America was putting out there. We all saw the type of bench that they had.
Right.
We all knew the type of team the Union had. And so that's a moment where Jim did bring that up. And he's brought it up a couple of times. I think if I'm like trying to just understand Jim and where he's coming from, it just may be that, like, look, Jim has been busting his hump with this team with one of the lowest payrolls in the MLS, and he's been able to get the most out of it. At a certain point, how much more can you ask from a manager to squeeze the juice out of the orange when we've been squeezing enough out of
Mhm.
it? So I guess at this point, Jim may be just frustrated because he's been doing the most that he can with this team. And although, yes, it's a weird spot to put that comment in, he might just be frustrated now.